What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Talking Halos. I'm your host today, Jared Timms, and I am joined alongside my co-hosts, my partners in crime, Brock Davis and Nate Green. Fellas, I don't want to ask you guys, but how's it going?
Happy Easter.
Happy Easter,
Happy
yes.
Easter. Yeah.
Happy Easter.
It's a good day.
Happy Easter.
Good day for me.
It's been a rough 2 days of baseball for
Oh, you meant baseball wise. I thought you just meant personally.
personally,
great. Baseball wise, we don't need to talk about that.
That's fair. Oh no. All right. Well, let's just not talk about it. No, we're still gonna talk about it. They're still gonna talk about it. Of course. Brock, how you doing down there?
Man, my mental state after that game, it's like I needed to wind down or something. Like it was typical Angels baseball, dude.
9 games in. This is what we're talking about already, huh, fellas? 9 games in. Nate, I don't want to hear it from you because you're not right.
You got that smirk from me earlier today. I sent him a text and it was a smirk face, but we'll talk about that later about what that was.
Taking positives, I'll take positives away from these last 2 series. And from the whole season itself so far, you got to take a lot of positives away. But first, did you guys see the Rocket City game?
I did.
Ben Joyce situation.
This is my scouting report on Ben Joyce. It will always stay the same until proven otherwise. When he's good, he's unhittable. When he is okay, he is unhittable. When he's bad, he's bad. He was bad. He was bad. And for those of you guys who don't know, Rocket City threw a no-hitter. They lost 7-5. Impressive. I can't say that I've ever seen that, not even really in Little League or anything like that. I'm sure it's happened in Little League or something along the lines of that, but I don't think I've never seen something like that before. So quite impressive for that to happen. No hitter, give up 7 runs, 1 strike away from closing out the no hitter, and they end up giving 7 runs up in the 7th inning. Really impressive. That's all I got to say there. 7-inning doubleheaders there in Double A. Take positives away from that though. 6 innings of no-hit baseball from Coleman Crow. 5 innings of shutout baseball for Sam Bachman. Velo's back up there. Looks really good. Looks like a starter. Let's get on to talking a little bit of Angels baseball here, fellas. We know how it's tough. It's tough right now. I'll say that. It's very tough, and it's been tough. It's been very, very tough. Nate, I don't know.
It's funny that you say it's tough though, because they're still winning games.
What? They're still winning games. No, so the way,
but it's just funny though that it's like
the way that I think it's tough is that the Angels should be 8-1. Is that fair to say? You look at opening night against opening day against Oakland, they should probably win that game. They can't close it out. You look at the game they lost against Seattle, that's probably the only game that they should have lost this season.
Yep.
They get blown out, the offense doesn't show up, nothing happens there, and that's to be expected. It's going to happen. You look at game 1 against the home opener against the Blue Jays, should have won that game. You got to be able to close those games out, no matter how many runs are scored. Same thing with the opening day against Oakland.
How many hits you had, all that stuff.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You got to be able to close that game out.
You do.
You look at today's game against the Blue Jays, 6-run lead, you blow it. You come back in the 9th, you have a lot of momentum, and you cannot have a shut. You got to figure out a way to get a shutdown inning or only give up 1 run in that 10th inning. Even though, God, I hate those rules. I still hate it. It ruins baseball. I'm a traditionalist. I just don't like the extra innings rule. I think it just is so. It's horrible. No matter what, even if the Angels won today's game, I still hate it. Even if the Angels win all extra inning games because of it, I don't like it. I just think it ruins the game. Regardless, you give up a 6-run lead at the grand slam from Chapman against Detmers that knocked him out. Wants can't come in and close out that inning. They end up giving up 6 in that inning. And, it just seems to be the bullpen. It seems to be the bullpen right now, right? The offense seems good. The starting pitching has been good. Bullpen, Nate.
The bullpen's a problem?
Bullpen seems to be.
Who would have guessed that?
I'm not talking to you, Brock. What do you got? Give me some thoughts here. There's a lot of positives to take away from all this.
How about this? How about I'll stick to the positives because I think somebody else on the show is going to handle the other end of the spectrum.
I wonder who that'll
So
be.
I'll stick to the positives. Hunter Renfroe. So obviously, like last night, he had the homer. Tonight, I think it was 4 RBIs. He had that super clutch 2-run double. And he had it in a moment where the game was such an emotional roller coaster already as it was, right? Like it finished out 13-12, like 25 runs, and I want to say 26 hits, if I'm not mistaken. And it was insane. Like it started out 6-0, and you're like feeling really good. And then before you know it, we're losing 10-6. And then Hunter Renfroe comes up, he hits the clutch 2-run double. We're back in the game. So Renfroe is either heating up or getting in the swing of things, whatever this means. It's obviously good to see. He played really well today.
It's funny because that was the one question that I was saving until today from our Q&A that we had from our fans was, are you worried about Hunter Renfroe's slow start? And now all of a sudden we're talking about him being one of the hottest Angels coming in with the Blue Jays series. And we hope he continues.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have ever worried about it either.
No.
I feel like it's one of those. He's one of those guys that it's just he's a straight power guy. He's a hard contact kind of guy, kind of like Trout, but Trout's on another level. You know what I mean? Trout's in his own atmosphere, but Renfroe has that commonality with Trout in the sense that when he hits the ball, and it's getting him there to getting him in the swing of things. Another positive thing, Drury hit his first homer today, which was nice to see. It sucked to see him strike out in that moment after the Renfroe double, but it's almost one of those things where it's like, dude, we scored 12 runs. Like, how much more can we ask of the offense to continue to keep it going? Like, can you be mad at Ohtani for grounding out in that last at bat? Like, I feel like I can't. Like, he hit a clutch 2-run homer earlier in the game. Like, almost everybody contributed today except Ward, and I think there was one other guy. And even Ward on paper didn't look like he contributed, but he had 2 very clutch walks that could have ended the game sooner than later. So even with Ward, I think he was 0-4 on paper. I think Rengifo was really the only person that you can say without a doubt did not contribute because he was 0-4 with 4 Ks, I believe. So ultimately, the positives to draw from this is Renfroe's heating up, and hopefully he continues it. We were pretty decent with patience at the plate for the most part. Hoppy is still contributing on the level we want him to. So there's a lot of positives to draw from this game. I'm not worried about Detmers, so I'm still going to stay positive about Detmers. It was just, he had a bad inning, and all starters are going to have bad innings. It just got out of control, and the Blue Jays were, I don't want to say getting lucky. I don't really think luck was a part of it in that inning, but later in the game, you saw that really come out with the soft contact, and it was very frustrating, specifically with Tepera.
Yeah.
So positives, we scored 12 runs, and there's guys that are starting to contribute, but I'll leave the remaining negativeness for Nate.
Now, Nate, I'm not going to give you just full leeway to lean into these guys.
But I did want to talk about Renfroe getting hot. I sent a text to a buddy, said don't let him get hot, because when he gets hot, he can get rolling. So good to see him. Good to see Sandy. Sandy threw the ball well again on Friday, continuing that WBC kickstart that got him going. So there were some good things out of this. But what were you going to say before I get into?
I said I wasn't going to give you full just hammer him, because again, we're talking 9 games in. Realistically, the Angels could very well be 8-1. They've had, we talked about this on the phone. They've had 3 bad innings now since we said like 2 full.
It was It was 2 bad innings until
today. And then today, just the bullpen kind of wasn't what it was supposed to be for sure.
So I'll be nice. Okay. I'm not going to blame it on any individual player. I'm not going to blame it on any pitching, any bullpen, anything like that. First of all, Perry Manasian, we said go get a closer. Go get a freaking closer. Where the frick is our closer? We don't have guys. Like, we don't have the right guys. We said it. We said go get more bullpen guys. You had minor league deals. You had other guys available. I think Michael Fulmer signed for $2 to $3 million. He was a guy who was a hot trade commodity at the at the deadline last year. He's thrown the ball really well for the Cubs. Hold on, one more spot before I finish here. Phil Nevin, why are we letting Reed Detmers pitch to Matt Chapman there? Why? He's thrown a good game. He's thrown a shutout. You know he doesn't have it anymore. He goes walk, single, hit by pitch. Why is he facing Matt Chapman?
I agree with that. I agree with that.
Why?
I agree with the negativity.
Phil Nevin
here.
needs to figure it out. We said he's not a major league manager. He's not a major league manager. Figure it out. He has cost us all these games, except for the one that, we didn't really have a chance at. But Phil Nevin, whoever you want to blame, whether it's Perry, whether it's the assistant GM, whether it's Phil, whatever, those three need to figure it the freak out. Like they do. Because right now, we have all of our losses to blame to those three guys. You could say got blown out.
Are you upset with him putting in Herget there too against Bichette?
Absolutely.
Taking out more? Why?
Absolutely. Because Matt Moore can get righties and lefties out. He actually has reverse splits. He can get he gets righties out better than he gets lefties actually.
So I mean, as good as, and we did this, for me.
If we're playing the matchup game, play the freaking matchup game. Don't all the time.
You go with what your best asset is, not what the Blue Jays or the opposing team's worst asset is.
Your shit is better than theirs. Yeah, that's what you have to think about.
Yeah. So is Matt Moore better against righties, or do you like Jimmy Herget better against righties? Granted, if they are very similar, which they were, I would say
you just leave the dude in
2022. Very similar in 2022. Then, what do you look at? And that's, I think, last season, Bo Bichette was worse against lefties than he was righties, which is a little bit weird. 10 points worse WRC plus wise. Whatever you want to take from that. He might probably had a couple more home runs. It wasn't crazy amount by any means.
And he hasn't been hitting lefties very well this year in a very small sample size.
And Herget hasn't been pitched well this year either. Herget hasn't been the same dude that we saw last year either. Like, I know he had the one outing in Seattle where he threw up a 0, but even in that outing, or maybe it was Oakland, I'm blanking right now, but I was texting Jared during that outing going, this is a lot of middle 86 mile an hour stuff. Yeah. Like even the sliders he was throwing, it was like, it's hanging and it's middle. Like guys just aren't swinging that stuff or they're getting under it. Like, yeah, it's working today, but that does not play long term. So there were just a lot of mismanagement bullpen wise, I think pitching wise in general. And I got to put the blame on Nevin and staff, whether you want to blame the pitching coach, whether you want to blame the assistant pitching coach, whether you want to blame the bench coach, because maybe he's hearing from Perry and staff up there. I think those are the guys to blame for this. Like, we have talked about this for how long, Jared? Put these guys in opportunities to succeed.
And I agree with that, and I 100% agree with that. And leading into that, I think the Angels have a good bullpen. If you put guys in correct spots, right?
They don't have a fireman, which is the guy who comes in when
you don't have a guy that's proven to get outs. You don't have that guy that can come in and just close the door. Nobody has proven that. Like, I thought Tepera coming into today was looking like that guy that could come in and just kind of shut the door.
But they didn't use him in that situation. They used him in a clean inning.
No, exactly.
Like, if he comes in with 2 outs in second and third or 1 out in second and third, he gets a punchy and a pop-up, you're going, great job, you're all done. Like,
also another thing that is constantly been bothering since, I don't know if it's Perry or even before that. I think it has been Perry since 2020. Because I remember Fabian Ardaya, who's now at the Dodgers, constantly mentioned this.
Giants?
But what?
Giants?
He's with the Dodgers.
I thought he moved with the Giants. Keep going.
Whatever. Constantly dirty innings.
Yeah.
Putting guys into dirty innings. It started, and I think 2020 was the year that it started, because that's when it started getting mentioned a lot, was with Joe Madden bringing guys in with 2 outs, runners on base, and not being able to close that out. Like, there's a time and a place to bring somebody in that situation, and there are certain
relievers that should be brought in those situations. Like Ryan Tepera is probably a guy because he's the high velo guy who could get strikeouts. Estevez probably could be that guy if he can find the strike zone. But they need a dude who's going to go shut the door. Like, even when Estevez came in yesterday with the 4-run lead, I know all Angel fans were still holding their breath because they've seen him in spring training. They've seen him this year, and he hasn't looked like he's thrown up zeros, but he hasn't looked good. It hasn't been like a clean 1, 2, 3. Like, oh, he threw 12 pitches and he was just lights. They don't have that guy, and playoff teams have those guys.
And
Playoff teams have multiple of those guys, but
so we can do all the complaining in the world. Do we have answers to this though? Right? Like we can say like
you need to go get a
this
dude.
guy.
You got to go get a dude in the pen.
Is Ben Joyce the answer? Like not that what so not even like again people are gonna sit here and be like Ben Joyce gave up 8 walks and however many runs during that. Like I don't care about that to be honest. Like
I don't either.
It's whatever. Is Ben Joyce that guy right now? Would you trust him in those situations yet?
Do we trust our own bullpen though? That's the thing. Like, why not?
Yeah, you need to find a guy. You need to find a guy. Like is there a guy in is it Estevez? You know, like
no.
Gotta find an answer.
I think Estevez has a hard time working the edges, bro. He can't work the edges at all. He's like either out of the strike zone or he's middle.
And
like
I think go ahead, sorry.
He's just got it's just frustrating. It's just super frustrating. And this is a part that I'm 100% in with Nate, where it's like I was holding my breath when Estevez came in, especially with the way that the bullpen has performed already. And then Estevez comes in. It's not that breath of fresh air where you're like, thank God. Like, imagine how we felt when Iglesias had that stretch. Like that was a breath of fresh air when they're doing their game over, high fives when he's about to go in. Like we need that energy back again. And Estevez or anybody else in our bullpen right now can nowhere near close to provide that with us.
You know where it starts. And I feel like we see this a lot at the beginning of the season too. It also starts at the starting pitching, as well. I think you need to get guys a little deeper into games. Hold on there, Nate. You need to find a way to get guys a little deeper into games, right? Like we're still seeing that pitch count kind of climb up a little bit. If you can find a way to get Detmers into that 100 pitch mark today, instead of, I think he was at 89 when they took him out today. I think it's a little bit better. You get him, you're able to get him into the, 6th, 7th inning at that point. Like I know he gave it the grand slam. And we saw everything kind of start to go downhill a little bit. But I mean, he was primarily fastball slider today. I'd love to see that change up and the curveball come into play a little bit more, especially later in the game, second, third time around there for sure. But again, like you look at the Suarez, Suarez didn't get deep into games, and it felt like they just kind of tried to piece it together, and it was whatever. How far did Sandoval go?
6.
6 innings.
Yeah,
you can find
which I think is good for this time of the year. Like you should be able to pencil in a 7, 8, 9 guy. Like you should have a squad where it's 7, 8, 9 penciled in. We got a 6. We're up going into the 7th. We got our 3 dudes. Game over.
Yeah.
Right.
100%.
So that's my issue. I'm not blaming any guys. I do think that there is 2 fixes though. But the problem with my 2 fixes, I don't know if there's 2 roster spots for them, because that would mean Perry would have to admit that he messed up. And he can't do that right now because his job is he's on a flaming seat right now. It is hot.
Well, we're not going to start that yet, but I do agree.
But it's hot
about that, and
it is
there's
getting
a lot of people
hot.
that agree with that. There's a lot of people that agree with that.
So my question: there's 2 guys. C-Rod is a guy. When he's healthy, C-Rod is a guy who could be that guy. He can get outs. He can get big outs. Ben Joyce, I'm willing to roll the dice with Ben Joyce because I think with the velo and he's around the zone most of the time. Yeah, he was pulling the front side the other day and he walked a couple guys. It happens. It happens to guys who throw that hard.
Different baseball too. Yeah,
and that was probably his first outing since spring.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like it's, oh, hey, he's thrown 2 or 3 times. Like, yeah, he might have that his first outing in the bigs, but after that, he should be dialed in, and you shouldn't be putting him in 9th inning up 1 first time out when it comes to the bigs. Obviously, minor league's fine with it, not a big deal. But I think he is an answer, and I think C-Rod is an answer. But who do you get rid of? Wants has actually thrown the ball pretty well until today. He made the air, and some things spiraled on him. But he has been one of the better relievers up until this point.
Used in good situations, might I add there too.
That's where he's supposed to be used, by the way. But you look at the high leverage guys, right? You got Loop, you got Tepera, you got Moore, you got Estevez. Those are and Quijada. So you have the 5 high leverage guys, right? Quijada's not going anywhere. They like him. Herget's not going anywhere. I might have not even mentioned Herget. He's not going anywhere. You can't get rid of Loop, and you can't get rid of Tepera. they were paid way too generous. And I bring this up all the time. They were paid way too generous for you to cut in April of their second year. If you do that, then you're going, oh crap, I messed up not one, but two bullpen signings, and I might have messed up two more, depending on how Moore and Estevez pitch. So it's kind of the same thing of why we think Davidson made the roster, because Perry's got to make something of the Raisel Iglesias trade instead of just like, we salary dapped them. We probably could have got a younger guy and helped, but we had to go get a guy right now because we think this is the right guy. And he could have easily been DFA'd. So that is my only concern with my two options that you said. Are there fixable options? I do think there are fixable options. Just who do you take? Whose roster spot do you take?
Well, you're pressing the panic button too early too. You're 9 games in. Yes, you've seen 3 iffy outings from Angels relievers. It's been a oh man, heart attack thing every single time they've come out. Are you pushing the panic button too early? It would also
I don't think you're pressing the panic button by going to get a need. Like, it's pretty obvious what one of your needs are. It's not like we're pressing the panic button on Tyler Anderson or Reed Detmers or
Well, you are.
Jose. Relax. I'm not pressing the panic button. They're exactly who we thought they were. Suarez, Anderson, Detmers, like, are we pressing the panic button on them after 2 starts? No. But it's not pressing the panic button right now for, like, if the Angels went out and was like, oh my gosh, like, did you know you could go trade for fill in the blank? Like, did you know you can go trade for Jack Flaherty right now? Like, if that was an option and the Angels made that trade, would you say they pressed the panic button on the starting pitching?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think that you recognize a need and you went out and you made it better, right? Like, you already know going into this year that the bullpen is an issue. Whether you thought it was fixed or not, you've seen it's not fixed. So for you to go make a move right now, I don't think it's pressing the panic button. It's just identifying what the problem is and making it and trying to make a fix, because some people think that this team has a shot to be special, and the bullpen needs to be better for this team to be special.
I think you give it a couple another series. So, Brock, you got anything else to add on to this before we let everybody go?
I feel like I'm actually not displeased with the starting pitching performances at all. I feel like I've been happy with it, and I might be wrong here because I've watched every game, but it's kind of all a blur at this point because we're 9 games in. I think, barring that inning, obviously, that Detmers had today, but I'm pretty sure that every start the Angels starting rotation has had has been a quality start.
I think Tyler Anderson went over that.
He did
on Tuesday. I think he gave up 4 in the first 2 innings and then settled.
He gave up 5 and 4 2/3.
He
so
settled down a little bit.
Is that one and Detmers the only 2 that we have?
Both of Detmers starts have not been quality.
You need to go. Suarez hasn't been either. Suarez was not.
Damn, why do I feel like it's been so much more than that?
Because they've thrown the ball well, but it's hard to get a quality start early because you're asking guys to go 6 and get less than 3.
I thought it was 5 and less than 3.
It's 6. So
it's okay, not like that's probably why I thought that then.
But they've thrown the ball well. Like, it's not like you've seen like Sandoval, even Ohtani's bad start. Like, he still muscled out 6 innings and got a job done. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing.
Yeah, bad start.
He didn't look as good as he normally does, but on paper it still looked like a good start.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, they've thrown the ball well as a starting pitching group. The bullpen just hasn't been put in the right spots. But Brock, keep going. Sorry.
No, you're good. Dude, it's just, it sucks. It sucks because I think we've made big leaps in a lot of different arenas. Like our opening day lineup this year compared to last year. Every Angels fan would say that it's leaps and bounds better than it was last year. Our starting rotation has been pitching leaps and bounds better than it was last year. Ohtani and Sandoval were like the only 2 that you would feel like you would, and even Sandoval on certain days. But Sandoval started out so strong. But I feel like now our rotation is still leaps and bounds stronger as a group than it was last year. Our lineup is stronger 1 through 9, especially with Ohapi in that 9 spot or even at anywhere in the bottom of the lineup. And it still sucks to be still facing struggles and not winning games that you should be winning. And it's just frustrating. And it seems like you look at teams like the Dodgers, over the last few years where they just always have dudes, always. And it's just what do the Angels need to do to have their roster constructed in a way where we don't have super big weaknesses? Because ultimately, at the end of the day, if you have 5 categories that make up a good team, I'm not going to think of what they are right now, but you could put it in your head. Right now, that weak spot is the bullpen, and it's killing us. It's killing us. Like, our defense has been good. Our offense has been killer. We've been scoring a shit ton of runs. We have been. And the starting pitching has been above average. And it's like, it's just the bullpen right now. Like, that's our weakness. And it's showing you how big of an effect a poor bullpen and not having a real closer can affect your game. And people have to remember, the athlete that all 3 of us will remember is that if you come out, you score 6 runs, your bullpen blows a lead, it's deflating to the guys coming up to the plate. Like, it's deflating when you have a big lead and you lose that lead. It's deflating to everybody that's hitting that field, regardless of how you want to look at it. We know that they try to come out and they get fired up, but at the end of the day, bullpen keeps blowing leads like this, it's going to affect the entire team mentally, and it's going to be frustrating for them just as much as it is for us, if not more.
Yeah, absolutely. And the bullpen has always been volatile. And Nate, we're not talking about closers. Thank you very much. That's what that was about. Bullpen's always volatile. So you never know. The bullpen could come out and just absolutely shove for the next 30 games. That's the weird, crazy thing about it. Also, why I would never spend money on a bullpen is because of how volatile a bullpen could be. So, guys, with all that being said, thank you so much for listening to this podcast and watching us. Go ahead and subscribe wherever you are listening and watching. Go ahead and follow myself on Twitter, Jared_Tims, Brock at BDROX8, Nate at NateGreen34. Guys, thank you so much for listening. Have a great rest of your day.